How's it going, everybody? It is episode 8 of the Lift with Christ podcast. I am here with my good friend, Scott Vanko. Scott, how's it going, brother?
Doing pretty well, man. Glad to be here. I'm excited. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. Now, I was connected to you through our mutual friend, Nick Dotson. And anyone who knows Nick know that that dude is an energy buddy. He's constantly like working to connect people, this, that, and the other. And I gained a really, really good rapport with the few phone conversations I had with you. I'm really excited to have you on. And to start off, I wanted to ask you, what brought you to Christ and how did you find Jesus to become your Lord and Savior?
So about 6 years ago, I right after I graduated from Ohio State University, I was from Columbus, Ohio. I was drinking a lot. My dad was an alcoholic. I grew up around alcohol most of my life. My grandma was really close to God. She came over to this country from Hungary, ran 100 miles out of her country, spoke at churches about her story. So she's been a big pinnacle in my life, Christianity in my life. But about 5-6 years ago, I had a second DUI right out of college, and it changed my whole life. I went to jail for like almost 3 months. I lost my license for 3 years and lost basically everything. And I didn't know who I was anymore. I was trying to do things my way of doing things. And then a friend had reached out to me after I was going through, rehab. I had to go to sobriety classes like 3 days a week. I wasn't drinking. I was working at a deli, actually, like some small deli in Toledo, Ohio. And my grandma would pick me up every day because I couldn't drive. So this is like where my whole like personal development journey started. And I got to that world, but I wasn't connecting to God. I was like, listening to Tony Robbins, a lot of motivational speakers. And then my grandma's like, let's go to church. Let's start going. I think you really need to connect to God. You're getting sober. Your life's been changing. Your perspective on things are changing. So I do recommend like have somebody in your corner who's spiritual, your family member, your friend. But that's where it all started. And then moving forward to this past year, I stopped going to bars like we had talked about. I just been working out 6 days a week. I've lost over 30 pounds, and a lot of things have changed in my life. I've been on this journey for like 5 years, just trying to figure out who I am. But I kept running back to God, but like not staying consistent with it. So now I've been very consistent. I've been going to church, every Sunday, throughout the weeks. I'm a little busy, but I still make time. I don't make excuses. It's kind of like going to the gym. It's like, I don't want to go today, but I know I have to. So that's kind of like where my journey started, man. It all stemmed from alcohol and a lot of dark pain that I held for a long time as a man. And once we learned to stop wearing that mask, we learned to start opening up ourselves to the world in Christ. And, he can show us the past, a new passage in our life. And that's where I became a better man and, been attracting a lot of abundance and great opportunities, man. So I'm just excited to be here. So.
Man, that's so awesome. And that's really powerful. I know myself, I've shared my testimony countless times, but I used to be addicted to prescription painkillers. And one of the things I noticed when I grew closer to God was that there's a lot of people, I feel like they don't want to go all in. They'll be like, oh, I love God and I accept scripture, but like there's a few things I want to keep. And one of the things I liked what you said is that you just stop going to bars completely. And there's a lot of people, when they want to give their life to Christ, they try to hold on to little habits. You'd be like, oh, I can do a little bit of this. And it's just like, no, it's all or nothing. So I have a lot of respect for the fact that you dove all in, going all in with your faith. And you brought up the gym and church. And I always tell people sometimes the hardest weight to lift is the front door, to the gym, to church, but sometimes just getting in there, you have no idea what you could do or how much you could benefit by just simply opening that door, putting yourself in God's presence on Sundays and putting yourself in the weight room in the gym throughout the week. Now, what's your current workout schedule like when you're working out? You said you're in the gym 6 days a week. You've lost 30 pounds. What advice would you give to somebody who's struggling to lose weight?
So a book that I read was by James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. And he talks about a guy who went to a gym for like 6 weeks. He wouldn't do a full workout and he would just come in and pick up the weights and then put them down. And then he'd walk back home or drive back home, whatever your situation is. I walk to the gym every day. It's like right by my condo. So I just walk and then I walk back because I know that I'll be burning more calories if I have a cardio day. But that book really inspired me to really build the habit of showing up. You have to show up for yourself in your life and all different areas. But it all started with me just doing incline on a treadmill. And I just, started doing cardio. And that started for about the first 5 weeks. And then I started getting a trainer at my gym. And we kind of broke down a fitness plan for me and like what I eat. Because I eat twice a day. I do intermediate fasting. So I eat at 11 and at 8. So it's 8 hours and 16 revolving. So I lift twice a week. I do abs and legs one day. And then I have like 2 cardio days. So then I take Sundays off, to recover, go to church, work on myself, and enjoy your life. You gotta have a little fun. Like I love working on myself all the time, but you still have to live. And I think that's the part. Like, people are putting so much pressure on themselves. I did this because I really wanted to change, and I really wanted to see how far I can go. Now, if you're like me and you're a little crazy like me, then I know you're like yourself. You're in a lot of bodybuilding. That takes years. It's going to take time. So progress, over perfection, and that's how I look at my life every day. And I enjoy the process of it. Even on days like I said, even when I don't want to show up, I just love that energy. There's just something about it. You get addicted to it. So
one of my favorite scripture verses is that comparison is the thief of joy. And sometimes when we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, like you mentioned, bodybuilding, when you're looking
yeah,
at this person or that person, you're going to feel empty inside because you're wanting to be like somebody else. But if you can look at yourself in the mirror every day, and by the end of the day, after a day's work, and be satisfied with what you've done, it's about planting those little seeds in the ground. Or I use a reference as salt. If you put one little thing of salt on your hand, not very big, right? But if you put one little grain down of salt each day, eventually you'll have a pile of salt. That pile turns into a pound, but it's being happy throughout the process and enjoying the process and knowing to have fun with it. And I feel like that's what you're doing. And you're just going to hit a nice stride because you're making it your lifestyle. You're not burdening
I
yourself
am.
with it. You're actually enjoying it. And another thing you brought up too that I liked is that you take a day off. And sometimes I used to have a really bad habit. And I'm just like, dude, if I'm not doing 3 hours a day, every single day, there's somebody out there who's outworking me. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
God gave us the example when he created the world. He did it in 6 days and took the seventh day off. And he's God. He doesn't need rest, but he did it as an example to us here on earth, for us to take time for ourselves to relish, relax, and enjoy the progress that we made throughout the week. So
Sounds really similar to my life. It's weird. Like Nick, he's a good friend of mine. Speaking of him on the show, like I had people throughout my life. Like I always talk like things out of the Bible. Like I would have random people come up to me, and I remember I went to a coffee shop one time here with somebody in Pensacola. We had just met to talk about Christianity, and he's like, "Who do you relate to in the Bible?" And I said, "David." And I didn't really know much about David's story in the Goliath, and a lot of the stuff that I was saying was like already in the book. He's like, "Do you hear yourself talking, Scott? Like you're saying a lot of these things in the Bible." And it's weird. We're all children of God, and that's something I didn't realize. I'm a child of God. Even if I wasn't showing up for him, he still loves and cares for me as a person. But I still have to build that relationship with him, just like going to the gym. And that's the thing. I was always talking like proverbs out of the Bible. I never even knew. Like kind of like you said, it's just weird. You start becoming this identity, and you have these ideologies of what you think it is, but then once you start embodying it, you start noticing and connecting the two. Like, wow, I'm actually really connected to God. Like he is real, he is among us, and I want people to realize that, and he can change your life.
And you and I feel like are similar in a way where you were talking about your addiction past with alcohol and just
Yeah,
going to jail and different things. And sometimes it takes somebody at their lowest moments, to be like, well, there's nowhere else for me to look. I have to find Christ. And I've come to realize the people who have been through the most can
yeah.
reach those people, and that's what makes your story and your testimony stronger. And it's not about us suffering pain. Like there was a guy who reached out to me on TikTok and he said, if God's real, why did he allow you to suffer during your 2.5 years of addiction? And for me, like I didn't respond to him, but I just told myself, if it didn't get to as bad as it was, I wouldn't be able to reach as many people as I can reach now. And God's about the bigger story and building his kingdom. And it's amazing how much you just from listening to you talk, how much you've revamped your life. And since you accepted Jesus, you're in the gym, super active, working. And that kind of takes me to my next point. What do you currently do right now for work?
So right now, I was working in tech sales recently. I left a corporate job recently, and I kind of just went all in on my business, like yourself and your podcast. I've been podcasting for 4 years. My first show I started, I was like I told you, I was on probation for DUI. I had moved here to Florida. I could not drive for like 3 years. I was washing dishes at a restaurant because nobody would hire me because I was still paying off court fines from my mistakes that I made in my life, and I was like, I can't get a gym, so I just took this job. I was making $9 an hour, and I just started this podcast called the Vanko Project. And I walked to my job every day, and I would just tell myself, "Hey, this is going to take off one day." My first show did about 30,000 downloads. I had about 40 interviews I did, and then I hit a wall, like you said. Like I was on this journey, just creating content, but thinking it's all about me and my ego. And then I wasn't building that relationship with God back then. And as I got to about a year ago, I was working from home, and then finally started getting back into the corporate world. My life was better. I was off probation. I started gaining weight, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I can work from home. I don't have to go to an office. And that's when I stopped interviewing, and I lost that part of myself. And when I started, like I said, revamping my life and started believing in myself again, that's when I got closer to God, and all these things started coming back in my life. And I started interviewing. My show Ford Creative, I started last summer. I was like, I want to start a show that I wanted, because my last podcast, I didn't feel like I had a brand. I didn't feel like I had a message. I kind of lost my voice. And sometimes you lose what you enjoy sometimes, and you have to figure out how to keep that momentum and enjoy what you do loving. And podcasting is always something that I loved. It's a labor of love, and I think everybody has a voice to share. And that's what this podcast is about. It's all about creativity, and whether you're working a 9 to 5, you can build something outside your job. Because I knew what it was like working dead end jobs, being in the corporate world. Like, I've been in a lot of bad situations in my life, but I knew how to get out of them, and I knew how to pivot and maneuver. So that's kind of like who I bring on, people who are just doing this. And, I bring on bigger guests as well, but I kind of keep it relatable for any entrepreneur listening. So and it's been taken off ever since. So it's been growing. So
Now, if somebody wants to reach out to you or find that, how would they be able to go about doing so?
So they can find me on Instagram at Scott Vanko. Podcast, I'm on Apple, Spotify, all the major Google, mostly on LinkedIn now. So I've been building personal brands. Personal brand is real huge in 2023. Like yourself, you've been building your own personal brand. I really love what you've been doing on TikTok and your YouTube channel. It's really inspiring. Just the Christianity and the weightlifting. I connect with you through your brand, through, just working out in my face. So that's why, I really love your show and the guests you bring on. So I'm thankful that I've been on here today. So it's been really awesome. I appreciate that. But that's where everybody can find me on LinkedIn. I've been working with CEOs of companies and just brands. So if you guys want to, start a podcast, hit me up. I'd love to chat with you. So
ain't that a wild testimony? The guy who was drinking, went to jail, had DUIs, had his license suspended, is now working in a corporate world with big podcasts. And I just want to let you know, you're an inspiration, not just to me, but many other people, and just the old Rocky phrase, it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward,
Exactly.
Now, when you talked a little bit about alcohol specifically, and there's a lot of people that drink, and I've come to realize as I've grown closer with God and the Holy Spirit, that I personally feel convicted to not drink. I cannot sip alcohol, and if I do, it takes me further away from God. What advice would you have for somebody that's dealing with the alcohol problem, caught up in the bars, because no one drinks and makes really good decisions. You know what I mean? It's people, they blow their money, they have premarital affairs, children out of wedlock. And as scripture tells us, Satan is here to steal, kill, and destroy. What I want to ask you is if you could talk to your past self, or somebody who's dealing with the alcohol problem, what advice would you have to give them so they can get away from the bar scene and get away from drinking?
Don't let it go too far, because it led to me getting a second DUI to realize that I had a problem, even if I only had to drive a mile down the road to get to my house. Like, I could have killed somebody. I could have, gotten a bad car accident, injured myself. One choice you can make can change the trajectory of your life and where you're heading. So my advice to anybody who's starting out, find people that are positive, that support you. I struggled with ADHD growing up. I was bullied a lot growing up, so I didn't really have a supportive community. Join masterminds, get involved in local churches, go to your YMCA, just get moving your body, start finding people who have the same values and morals in you in areas that you want to grow in. Like, I've been meeting people at the gym, just working out, randomly coming up because they see how focused I am. And that's I have to put myself in environments that are going to keep me out of the bar. So find people that keep you accountable. If you're really struggling, I'm not a doctor or, a psychologist or a substance abuse counselor. That's something that I did go through the process of that. If you're at that level, I would definitely recommend reaching out to, some counselor, somebody you can open up with privately, somebody who can really break down, because addictions can be a disease. Alcoholism is a disease, and it can really take over your life. It's been a curse in my family, from my grandfather to my dad. I love them to death, but somebody has to break the chain in the family. And I'm hoping I'm the one. So one of my brothers actually quit drinking, so because of me probably, and just changes I made. You can really inspire the people around you just by one choice you can make. So find an accountability partner, get involved in churches. And if it's really gone too far, definitely reach out to a program or somebody that can really help you with substance abuse. So.
Yeah, you brought up, who you surround yourself with. And for me, I'm constantly surrounded by positive people. And it's almost foreign to me. Like sometimes I'd read or skim through comments and I hear some negative people, but it's like when I go to the church or when I go to church or when I go to the gym, it's just all these positive people. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you know what I'm saying? And for me, I'm a very positive and uplifting person. And I get that because I'm surrounded by so many encouraging and awesome people, and just finding real genuine friends I feel like is so important. And I know for me, once I started Lift with Christ, I started my business. I saw who my real friends were, and people who I thought I was like this with, were like, yo, what you're
Yeah.
doing is a little crazy, it's a little out there, is Nick okay? And I've had to grow past that and move forward. And but for me, like I just know the closer like that I got to God, the more pure people and pure things like I've noticed were surrounding me because I was going
Mhm.
towards Jesus.
You're right. I can definitely relate with that.
Mhm. Now, for you, you're like you said, you're in the business world. I'm an entrepreneur myself. And at the end of this podcast, I'm going to take some notes to this question I'm about to ask you. But
Okay.
what advice would you have for someone that's trying to get into the podcast world like myself, or
Yeah.
just somebody who's like, you said you talk with these people with it, like really big corporations. There's a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, want to start their business, want to get their breakthrough. What advice would you have to somebody who's trying to go that way?
So when I first started my podcast, I had to go through a lot of failures by myself. My first show was called the Banko Project, and I'm doing Throwback Thursday now. So old interviews I'm bringing on there, so you can see where I failed and how bad I sound. I sound like way younger than I do now because I have like a radio voice. People tell me, but my biggest thing I tell people don't start a podcast at first, and the reason why is it's like why do you want to start one? What is your message? And I don't mean it to crush their dreams. I just say that because it's really hard and you have to be consistent. And most podcasters don't make it past episode 10. So why would people want to listen to your show from a business standpoint? Because what ROI are you going to get out of this like in the next 5 years? Like my goal for my show is eventually have ads on my show, but you got to keep networking, keep putting podcasts out like you've been doing yourself with your show. But my biggest advice is if you want to grow your brand, I think it's a great medium. Like I said, it's a labor of love. You can work with other brands. You can collaborate with influencer marketing. You can do live events around your podcast, affiliate marketing. You can create courses, and you have a brand around what you're building and have, raving fans around you that support what you're doing because they really want to know who you are. Your authenticity is about building your brand, what your story is, what makes you unique, what's separating you. Because I see a lot of people have the same kind of podcast, but that's why I talk about why I'm not where I'm at yet on my show. And I bring on people like, hey, like I interviewed a guy named Mark Drager. He's a 7-figure earner. He owns a creative agency in Canada, I think Toronto. And he told me all the people that you look up to, that you actors, athletes, top podcasters, influencers, they all figured it out in real time. Like I'm no different from you. We're all doing this presently in the moment. God talks about that in the Bible. We're just presently doing this in the moment and figuring out who we are. And don't compare yourself to other people like, oh, they have better graphics, they have better audio. Like you can literally start a podcast under $100. You can go, like I started with Audacity with editing software, and then I had a Blue Yeti mic, this mic right here, that I spent like $100 on, and that's what I used for my first mic. Now I use like a cold calling headset that's like $80. Like you don't need to like go all in and spend all this money on equipment. And eventually you can add a website. Like I use Descript for my editing now because it's an AI software. It gets all your filler words, makes everything really crisp. You can do Studio Effect, like that's another thing that I really like. And I use Buzzsprout. So you also need a hosting site, Buzzsprout, Libsyn, Podbean. I love Buzzsprout. They're really good for hosting sites, like 10, $12 a month. And you just pay the storage and they send your podcast out to Spotify. Apple, you have to have about 3 episodes, together before you can submit it, have an artwork. And then, you can just start getting reviews from your fans like, hey, please write a review, have an incentive. Like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? I'll pick like out of the 20 reviews to have you come on my show. Like, just get creative. There's a lot of things you can do with podcasting. A lot of people ask me like, hey, where are you on YouTube or on video? So that's a new area I'm getting into now. It's like you, like yourself, like adding video. So people watch the podcast, some people just listen. So you just got to figure out where your target market is, who you're trying to attract as listeners, and really just, grow as yourself as a, a host, because when you're doing an interview show, the best thing is to do is just let them talk, because that's when all the nuggets and diamonds drop. Or if you're doing a solo show, do you do currently solo episodes on your podcast, or?
No, I was thinking about doing so in the future. Like I was telling you, I have my surgery tomorrow, and I'm going to have a lot
Yeah.
of time to recover. And just
Mhm.
from the conversation that we had yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I don't remember
Like
exactly.
2 days ago. I don't, life is going by so quick, man. I can't even keep up anymore. So
But yeah, I was eventually gonna do some solo stuff because there's some nuggets, like you were saying, they're just drilled into my brain, and
yeah.
I gotta talk about them. You know what I mean? There's some stuff that's up there, you know. So yeah, I'll eventually be doing some solo ones in the near future. Just trying to keep this
Mhm.
like focus, you know, about Christianity, but then
Yeah.
giving each episode its own identity. You know what I mean? With different guests, different topics,
Mhm.
because different people can reach other people, you know, in different ways. And I kind of think of it sometimes like fishing. You know, if we all went out to the ocean, we all have a net and we can only reach so many fish, you know, when we cast out our net. But different
Oh,
people, different voices, different connections, I feel like, you know, people may click with somebody's personality and what they've been through over somebody else. And just like how you talked about alcohol in the bars and I talked about painkillers, you know, both are addictions, but somebody who
mm.
might be a casual drinker or wanted to golf can listen to you and be like, oh, that really clicks with me, where I was a painkiller guy. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
just testimonies. You know what I'm saying?
The little things that come a long way. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can get started with a podcast, like, and sharing your story like we have today, and just do it a little every day. Everything I did, I went on YouTube and I just watched videos. I learned how to upload to Spotify, everything. I did all on my own. I do like recommend, if you're trying to grow a show, find somebody who's been doing this and just reach out. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars for coaches online. There's a lot of people charging way more than I think they should, because not a lot of people, like, don't give up all your money for your rent just for a podcast. Like, you can do this like under $100. And I'm creating a course that's like around $200 here. I'm launching in a month for people, who are just starting out, just working a 9 to 5, that live on a budget. Just I want to give back to what I struggled with to people
Mhm.
when starting my first podcast through my failures, and what I've learned. And having mentors, is I've come a long way and gotten better, because you get better over time. You
Mhm.
start getting better at communication, public speaking. Like you said, you do motivational speaking, so you get better developing your skills as a podcaster as well. So
Yeah, just to add my 2 cents in the penny jar, you know, no matter what it is in life, whether it's podcasting, motivational speaking, YouTube, you got to enjoy the process and you can't be afraid to suck. You can't afraid to be bad. And you just got to keep swinging and keep throwing
exactly.
punches. And if you go back on my older videos when I was in my apartment by myself, I'm so proud of what I did, but they're definitely not as good as the videos that I'm putting out now, you know, and I'm going to reach a point a year from now, or remember this conversation, be like, the videos I'm putting out now are bad, you know, and just even me, one thing I learned too is like with the whole eye of the tiger thing is like you have to be very raw mentally. You have to be fearless and you can't
You
care
do.
about what every single person thinks. And if at the end of the day, if you truly believe in yourself, you know, day in and day out, I mean, eventually your time is going to come, but the lessons, and to get a little biblical here, the lessons that you learn along the way, you know, make us into who we are, and those testimonies and our come
Mm.
up, how we can reach others, you know. And if God just gives you everything at a silver platter because you ask him, you don't learn any lessons to get it, you know. But if you just keep
Yeah.
putting in the work and be like, God, what are you trying to teach me through this process? And I know for me, because I haven't had my massive breakthrough yet, but the lessons that I've learned along the way to get me to where I am are so valuable. And I know
Mhm.
that I can reach more people with my words because of the journey that I'm going through, you know. So everything that you said, I really liked. And $200 is an excellent deal. For somebody, I may even join myself. So if somebody wants to join that class, how can they get in touch with you to do so?
So I'll be launching the course probably in the middle of May. I'm working on it currently right now, so it will be out. I will let you guys know ahead of time on my social media. Like you say, you can follow me at Scott Vanko. My website is www.scottvanko.com, and you can follow me on there. My company, Vanko Media. So, but yeah, it's just, I'm excited to really get back to what people have given back to me, and just my own struggles. We're all in this life together to help each other out. You don't know what somebody's going through every day. Just be kind to people. People are carrying wars in their mind. Like you said, you have to be a raw mindset when you're creating content and you have a brand, because you're gonna have people, once you start lifting and becoming more, you're gonna have haters. You will. I mean, but it's just an insecurity. But actually, you might inspire them to start to go do something. Because I had people that were like judging me at first, like, hey, what are you doing, man? Like, what is this? Like, this is not normal. I'm moving out of the matrix. Like, and I'm like, dude, we live in the matrix, man. I feel like that every day, like the movie. I'm like Neo or something, but like, and I actually turned their mind. They're like, hey, I'm gonna actually go do acting. Kind of this. I had a friend that was kind of like, messing with me a little, and then he actually started going and doing his own content creation as well. Nick as well. I inspired him to go do his own stuff. So you got to find somebody who's really confident in what they do.
Right.
And those people are confident because they have habits and beliefs that reinforce their actions in life. Like Tony Robbins says, take massive action, determined action. He always says this in his book, Awaken the Giant Within. I'm a big fan of his content, and Christ, believe in him as well. Believe in his support and his plan and his mission for you, because he knows above all of any influencer out there what is best for your journey. So
yeah, I know from my experience firsthand, like podcasting is something, oh, you see other people do it, I'm just like, oh, okay. But
yeah,
after my first one that I did with Nick, I felt good because I was like really, really pleased with how well it went. And I pulled so much out of him. And I love Nick. And like, it was my first episode and I had a 40-minute limit. So I got right to the
the
end.
free Zoom account.
Yeah,
It's all good. I had one too.
Mhm. But the thing is with Nick, if I would have let him go, we could have gone on for hours. You know what I mean? But right when I wrapped it up with him, I was just like, man, why wasn't I doing this earlier? Like I felt good about it, but I was also a little mad at myself because it's just like all I had to do is just get on Zoom, bing, bang, boom, and just get something out there. And I know eventually at some point I'll grow it beyond Zoom, and I'll keep moving forward. But just even this conversation that we're having right now is just don't be afraid to just, for anyone who's listening and contemplating doing a podcast, just get yourself out there, just do it. And you're going to learn from experience. And once you get comfortable with it and you talk with different people along the way, you'll slowly increase and get to that level that you want to be at over time.
Yeah, like my first interview, I had to redo it. The lady actually emailed me. She's like, "Can we redo it? You were kind of like your questions. Some guests want questions, some don't. Some don't want to be on video and audio. So my biggest thing, like if you're having guests on your show, email them ahead of time, set up like properly. Like if you want to be on, I like being on video and audio. That's just me. So I like your approach to things. I'm just saying to anybody because like some people are particular because they have a bigger brand. They want things a certain way. So just be careful who you work with too, because not everybody's in it for you too. So I've ran into that in the industry as well. Find people that relate to your values and your brand. That's why I relate to what you're doing, because I'm connected faithfully and working on myself and my health. So those are people I like to work with. So find your tribe is what I say. That's your vibe. Ralph Smart says so. But yeah,
Is your vibe? I dig that.
Yeah,
that's a t-shirt slogan right there. That's money.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you'll become a different person. Like looking back 5 years now, man, I'm not the same person I used to be, and it's been a great journey, great ride, and it's only up from here. So,
What are your career goals and aspirations? Like, where do you plan? I mean, you're right now, you're just ahead of steam, especially from where you've been to where you're at now. What would you say is a goal that you're trying to reach that you haven't gotten to yet?
Being a top 50 podcaster, that's been my dream for a long time. But that takes time. Maybe being a top 100 podcaster here within the next 2-3 years. Getting bigger guests on my show. Like I want to have like Gary Vee, Tony Robbins. I have a big guest coming on here soon that I'm really been a mentor. She's been a mentor of mine, and I'm getting her on as well. So it takes just little building blocks. And then after you interview somebody, be like, hey, do you know anybody else that I could interview that you could relate to? That's what I did. And that's how I found bigger guests, because when you name drop and you pitch guests on your show, you can just like, yeah, I emailed them. The law of familiarity, I think is what it's called. I'm trying to pronounce that right. People are familiar with, people that you associate yourself with. So relationships are key in business and in life. I'm sure in the Bible as well, it talks about, relationships are key with God and your disciples, the people. And that's so important because like relationship building, if you can do that, you will go very far. And you're not just in it for yourself. You're impacting people along the way. Like I had a random church. So I flew to this event called the Summit of Greatness with Lewis Howes. I'm sure you know Lewis Howes, a big podcast. He grew up in Columbus, Ohio. I went and volunteered at this event. I met Ed Milet, like Leanne Rhymes, Jesse Itzler. These like motivational speakers. And I met this lady on my way to that event in 2019, and like a year later she hit me up. She's like, this church was playing your podcast in a church in Chicago that I went to randomly, a big episode that I had dropped. I had interviewed this videographer who had filmed the Kobe Bryant interview with Lewis Howes. She was like talking about how she's not the A talent, but the B talent. She had filmed like his first 500 episodes to his podcast, and he's like one of the top names in, you know, personal development. And it's just weird. I was just a volunteer at this event on my way to this event. Actually, I'd like manifested this event. I didn't even know I was going to volunteer. I got this like random email, and at the same time, I met that lady on the plane. And then a year later, she told me somebody was listening to my podcast at church. And if I can help one person, that's all I care about. You know, that's kind of my mission, why I started it. So
That's some powerful stuff. And to chime in, I've, tried to network with people, sometimes it goes
yeah,
well, but I get rejected a lot, and it's just like dating or anything else in life. There's some people that you're going to connect with or be like, yeah, I love what you're doing. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to connect. And there's other people they're going to politely reject. They might think your idea is bad, whatever the case is. And you just have to learn to grow from your rejections. And you can't be afraid to get rejected either. I put myself out there in front of a lot of people, and I get rejected more times than not from others. But for the times that it does connect and it does work, it's worth it to just, you're not going to connect with every person, but you can't be afraid to put yourself out there, because I think it's a Michael Jordan quote: you miss all the shots you don't take.
yeah.
Cases, so when it comes to network, at least from my experience, like just keep firing away, and you never know when one of your missiles is going to land if you just keep firing.
It's weird because like there was moments where like I had a bigger guess. I'm like, man, that door just opened. I better go run through it real quick because it's going to close on you real quick if you don't. So I'm telling you, get the opportunities, because one big interview could change everything for you. It did for me. But that's why I said your vibe is your tribe. I love Ralph Smart. He's at Infinite Waters on YouTube. I follow all this stuff, and he always talks about, finding people that believe in your mission, who support you unconditionally, love people unconditionally. And it's not just business all the time. Like, I don't like to talk business. I like to be a real person. And that's kind of like why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I want to help other people get to where they want to be and, live an abundant life, live a life that's full of meaning, blessings and things that my grandma always wished for me, people that always prayed for me when I wasn't in a room. I think there's a quote that says people are praying in rooms that you don't even know about. So it's like, and that's one of my favorite quotes. Like there's been very great people in this mastermind that I've been in. And I'm sure you've already been connecting with people. We had conversations about this. Just keep surrounding yourself with those people, because they're going to have your back.
Yeah, and like you're saying, or I was saying earlier about believing in yourself, I feel like there's a lot of people out there that have personalities that could easily attract 100,000 subscribers or 100,000
Not
people.
me. I'm working on that part. I mean, I'm good in person, but I'm still working on the social media part.
Well, listen, just your testimony alone could reach people, talking about alcohol, whatnot. But I feel like, man, everybody's got that potential, you know what I mean? But it's just like we're just saying, just keep putting in that work, keep putting yourself out there. And eventually, if you keep working hard enough, the cream will rise to the top at the end of the day.
Exactly. Go the distance. Go the distance. Dun, 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 dun. I thought you had like a music button or something, like some shows.
No, I wish I did. You said going the distance. I was like, man, that's the perfect time. Maybe I'll have my wife put something in at some point. Scott, do you have any closing remarks or anything you want to say as we conclude or wrap up here today?
Go after your dreams. You have one life. I lost a friend 3 years in a hospital. He had passed away. He like basically died in front of me. I went through some very dark chapters in my life, and I've seen things that some people don't want to see, and we all go through dark chapters in our life. And after seeing death in my life, that really woke me to wake up in this world. We can make this world a beautiful place if we really step into it. And moments like that, your darkest moments, led me to my most beautiful moments in my life. So whatever you're going through, whatever you're struggling through, just have faith, reach out to people, connect with God, listen to this podcast, listen to my podcast, really be out there helping people, because there are good people in this world. You don't have to be doing this by yourself. And I thought that for many years. So,
man, that's a very powerful message. And for people who want to reach out to you, again, I know we talked earlier about your social media accounts, but who wants to reach out to you, get in touch with you about podcasting, just ask you any questions in general, what's the best way to go about reaching out to you?
You can go over to scottvanko.com. I've been on Instagram as well. I'm going to be updating that more, getting my podcast on YouTube at Scott Vanko on LinkedIn. I've been mostly on LinkedIn just because I'm connecting more with business people over there. And I like the platform. It's great for organic reach and connecting to more of my audience. So find your platform. TikTok, that's something I'm playing around with more. So I think I have like 1,500 followers on my old one, so I can go live now. So
Yeah.
like I said, sharing more of my testimonial. So I'm always growing by meeting you today, and learning about myself, because we all want to be somewhere at the end of the day, but it takes time. Like we said, it's like going to the gym. Just
Mhm.
go every day, build a
Mhm.
habit. So
Man, I loved your positive energy, dude. You dropped a bunch of wisdom nuggets, and like you said, chase your dreams, and you never know what God has in store for you. You know, if you're willing to be bold and different than everyone
yeah,
else. And I really hope people that are listening reach out to you. And dude, you have such a genuine heart for helping others, and I just love the fact that you genuinely like you don't just want it for yourself. You want to build a team of people.
yeah,
And I just have so much respect and admiration for from where you've been to where you are now is just truly remarkable and such a testament to God's love and how great he is.
I appreciate it, Nick. It forges you. I think there's something in the Bible that says about forging you like iron. I don't know the passage,
Iron
but like
sharpens iron.
sharp, yeah, basically. And just like it takes time, but like it's crazy how far you can go.
I'm going to conclude here with some prayer real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
All righty. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing Scott and I together today. Lord, I just want to pray that we can build your kingdom here on earth, and that this conversation and our businesses and what we're doing can reach people for the good, and we can inspire people to be better versions of themselves, and for people to find your son, Jesus Christ, through what we're doing here on earth. And be with us, God, to spread that positivity and love across the entire nation. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. All right, man, dude. It was a pleasure talking with you, and I'm sure we'll be in touch, and we'll probably even have you on again sometime soon.
yeah, we'll get you on my podcast. All right. So,
Let's do it, brother.
all right. Thanks, Nick.
All right, take care.
When it comes to the devil, I don't play nice. It's your boy Nikki G from Lift with Christ. Chestnut checkers, raise the bar, keep climbing. Wait on the Lord, yeah, trust God's timing. Jesus is my broccoli, chicken, and rice. Ladies and gentlemen,
Lift with Christ.